Hello, everyone. I hope this finds you well. Welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. I am Michelle Henderson, and I hope that each episode that I bring to you brings some type of inspiration into your life. All right, so this week, what I want you to think about, have you ever felt that you experienced a spiritual encounter in the most unlikely places? These spiritual encounters can remind us that there exists a spiritual plane, God, and that life does truly go on after we leave this planet behind. Now, I have a quote from Ryan Montgomery, and it states, I think everyone has spiritual encounters and feelings, but I don't think everyone chooses to acknowledge them. And I know in my life, I have had so many, you think it's coincidences? No. So when I think about it in my life, I'm going, really? I don't think that was coincidence. I think that was actually spiritual. And the more I listen, the more I feel like I am right. So we're going to have this discussion with the next guest, and I am so excited to have her. I'm going to kind of jump ahead, but I do have her book here, and we're going to talk about her book and about her life and her inspiration behind the book. But let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about her. So Dr. Marni is an award-winning, celebrated author, speaker, and educator. She earned her doctorate in education from Northern Illinois University and completed postdoctoral studies at Harvard after a very successful and rewarding 35-year career as a high school special ed teacher. And I think she needs a reward for that because we do need our teachers. With 12 years as a university adjunct graduate school professor. Marni's life was forever changed after experiencing numerous trauma-induced STEs, which it stands for Spiritually Transformative Encounters. Marni's 2020 Best Book, award-winning spiritual fiction, right here, God Came to My Garage Sale, is prominently endorsed by James Redfield, and we know who he is. Okay, best-selling author of the Celestine's Prophecy series of books, founding directors of IANDS, which stands for International Association for Near-Death Studies. And I find it absolutely fascinating. So let me go ahead and bring Dr. Marni on. All right, I got to do the audience real quick. The audience clapping. I just have to do that. It just kind of raises up the energy, don't you know? But how are you doing today, my dear?
Oh, I'm doing great, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me on your Inspiration Hour.
Well, I am so excited. Your whole life, when I was reading the book, when I was reading about you, I thought, you know what? She is such an inspiration because of what you have been through. And I am so grateful that you are sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you so much. Our voices matter, and having these conversations, just can help inspire other people to realize they're not alone, and that, goodness can prevail no matter what our circumstances are.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, okay?
Yes.
So, and you know what? Whenever I was reading your book, and I find this fascinating because, religion or the way that we are raised, it kind of, I don't want to say marks us, but you go through that, you're programmed to believe in certain things.
Mhm.
And as I understand that you were raised in an atheist family, and
Mhm.
then you found spirituality later in your life. Can you
Yeah.
kind of tell everybody about that? How you experienced that, what you learned through the whole experience?
Yeah, sure. Well, my early childhood experiences and upbringing, kind of molded me into a non-believer. We have that foundation from, our family of origin, our parents, and but I always, in my heart of hearts, believed there had to be something more because there were just so many miracles that I could experience every day, just looking at nature. Even the very tough times when I would see tragedies and sadness, I thought, well, somehow the human spirit has to be able to handle this. And there must be a bigger purpose for that. So I always had a drive within me to just, seek out more. And when I was in college, I actually went the organized religion route. And because I thought that was where you go to find these answers. And that was wonderful in itself. And eventually, when I was raising a family, I actually was a lector in church so I could read the Bible and learn about things. I'm not so much into organized religion now, more spirituality after I believe God came to my garage sale. So I'm of the belief that there are signs and synchronicities that we often ignore, but that really, after a while, you can't really chalk them up to coincidences because they are so profound, they're so personal, they're so miraculous, otherworldly. And so, it was definitely a quest. Because of my upbringing, I really needed proof and evidence, much more than most people. I didn't have that blind faith. And so I did a lot of research. Just as a teacher, a lifelong learner, I wanted to investigate this, and that was a journey of many years, to really validate what I had gone through. And what I experienced were spiritual transformative encounters or experiences, STEs.
Okay, yeah, and I love that you bring that up, and I know that when you're doing research and you're trying to find, facts so that you
Mhm.
can actually change your mind on certain things, but when you experience it, that's a whole different thing that we're talking about. So explain to us what that means, the STEs. What is that exactly?
Well, sure. Actually, it is a term that's coined by Dr. Yvonne Kaysen. And actually, it was fairly recently. I think it was in the 1980s or 1990s that she coined that term. And she founded the organization SAI, which is Spiritual Awakenings International, to give people a voice and to have a platform for people that did not flatline and have a near death experience, but had something very similar. And so they are encounters that, again, you can't chalk up to coincidence. They are very, very unique. They have a lot of the same qualities of a near death experience, where you just have a feeling that you are loved and supported by a higher power, a divine source. You can call it whatever you like. I choose to call it God.
Mhm.
But they are life changing, and everyone that kind of comes back from this, the testimonials, the research, the thousands of books that have been written on this, and even now the scientific research that is proving consciousness and all of that, they come back with the message that we are all love, and that we are here on earth to um, learn lessons on our life's journey. And it could be related to karmic cycles, it could be related to past lives. These are things that, if I didn't experience it myself, Michelle, I would never have believed it.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
would, right. In
Yeah.
fact, earlier on in my life, when people would say, talk about a near death experience, or seeing God, or having a vision, or uh, being transported, teleported somewhere, I would be like, oh yeah, sure, right. But until I
Mhm.
experienced it firsthand, um, everything has changed now. And even after you've experienced it, for me anyway, it took many experiences for me to just finally say, I'm being blessed here. I'm being guided, especially when I've gone through some very challenging times in my life that really no person should be able to pick themselves up from the heartache, the betrayal, the deep
Mhm.
sadness, the pain of loss. And I'm able to do that, and then some, not only survive it, but thrive, and just you know, have a beautiful life as a result. And so I believe that these STEs are situations that are happening more and more, or we're hearing about them more because of platforms like your podcast and others that, are letting people share their experiences. And we're realizing we're not alone. This is happening all over the world to so many people, and it's very, very cool.
And I totally agree. And don't you think that everybody is going through another spiritual awakening?
Oh, right now? Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, there is complete spiritual forces at work right now because so many of us are experiencing global situations, and we're thinking to ourselves, this isn't right. That is not true. There's so much fraud and corruption and misinformation, and then there's so many warriors that are trying to bring about the light and the hope and the positivity. And so that we're definitely in very almost biblical times, if you want to say it like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But, you know, it's also happening globally, but it's happening personally for people in their own individual situations, their relationships with people, their decisions about all sorts of things, their health, their jobs, their communities, their families. People are actually putting up some healthier boundaries now, and not just going along status quo like, well, even though this is unhealthy, I'll just stay in it. People are getting stronger and stronger and saying, wait a
Mhm.
minute, part of our evolving is to let go of things that don't serve us and people and situations that are actually harmful to us or holding us back. And it's takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of strength. And I'm very excited for myself, but also for others in the world, that we have this opportunity to have our light bulbs on.
Right, absolutely. And talking is also a spiritual awakening. I know that a lot of people think, you know what, when I go through my spiritual awakening, it's going to be like, Candyland. Everything's going to be great. It's going to be sunshine, but it's not always like that. I know it's very emotional. And like you said, sometimes you have to take a stand. You have to change your life somewhat, and you'll be triggered a lot. So
Yes.
tell us about what you had to do when you were going through your spiritual awakening. You're going, enough is enough. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, there's many different phases of my spiritual awakening. I can't just, put it all into like one event or one time frame. But, basically my story is that, I was living the American dream, teaching high school and college, raising two beautiful children that were adults. And you know, I finally, like, a light bulb went on where I finally realized I was ignoring years and years of red flags in my marriage. And I chose to divorce after 27 years. And that was enough, was enough.
Mhm.
There was a defining moment that made it very clear to me that, this is my opportunity to escape, because and I escaped with my life. And
Mhm.
anyone that has been in any domestic abuse situation, family trauma situation, realizes that, it is a very scary situation to be in. And abusers actually instill fear into you so that you, stay in line, that you don't rock the boat. In fact, I was threatened, don't you dare divorce me. If you,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking, who says something like that? But,
Mhm.
um, I'll take your house, your money, your children. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, isn't it our house and our money and I mean, I just, the light bulb went on that my values of
Mhm.
love and honesty and fidelity and fiscal responsibility and just all sorts of things, they did not align with who I was married to. And obviously I was at fault by allowing so many years to go by without really stopping and reflecting and saying, this is not right. And people stay in situations, especially if you have a family. So when I chose to divorce, the kids were 20 and 23. And, as a result, I've had significant losses. I mean, the losses have been tremendous. Yes, the house, the money, even the support system of friends, family, and neighbors due to a smear campaign. But most devastating is the loss of my two adult children to parental alienation. which happens to wonderful dads and wonderful moms that just,
Mhm.
happen to have been married or partnered up with someone who wants to destroy them, that are malevolent. They have an evil agenda, that they
Mhm.
think by destroying another person that will build them up, and even with a false narrative, that type of thing. But
Mhm.
you know what? I had to learn a lot about that. So yes, the spiritual awakening does involve a lot of pain, because you
Mhm.
have to take a hard look at what you're going through. But a big part, Michelle, I would say, is doing the self inner work. You need to look at yourself. You need to look at your foundation and what made you an overgiver or an extreme
Mm.
empath, someone that did not have strong boundaries. Um, then when you finally do that inner work and realize, wow, I need to make some changes with a lot of other relationships. And then you start seeing things are not the reality that you thought, was, especially when it came to some relationships or situations. It's not really true. It's not based on your values of honesty and love. And you got to make some tough decisions. So the spiritual awakening comes with a lot of trauma, but at the
Mm.
same time, it comes with so much hope, and it's so much beauty and so much authenticity. I would rather have a smaller circle that is more
Mhm.
authentic than live in a false reality.
See, I knew you were the perfect guest for the show.
Okay.
Because all that inspiration, you can just feel your energy
Mhm.
and just finding your true self and your unique self and how it has really meant for you. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing that. It just kind
Oh,
of it gives me
sure.
goosebumps just thinking
Yeah.
about it. Can you kind of go into your STE experiences? What did that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, because actually, that's another thing. I can't just summarize it in like it looks
Right.
just like this. It came out of the blue and actually, unexpected. So I had to have a garage sale. But instead of having feelings of sadness or anger, which would be very justified, I was just filled with love. I was filled with gratitude. I was thankful, that I had 20 years to raise my daughter in this beautiful home. I had 30 years to raise my son. And, so I'm looking at the glass half full, which is kind of how I've always operated anyway. But like one example of a tangible spiritual transformative experience. I was looking back at my home, again in the state of gratitude, and I all of a sudden things started to go slow motion. And as I learned later on, most of my experiences are when I'm in a state of slow motion. It's almost like the air is like clear jello. It's just thick, and I'm just there. And all of a sudden a dragonfly circled me, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then there were 5 dragonflies. And again, I didn't think too much of that. But then right away there were like 50 to 100 dragonflies circling me. And normally my human person would be like, get these insects away from me. I'm not into bugs, even though I live in the Caribbean now, and I'm come into contact with bugs that I never knew existed.
Mm.
I'm not a fan of them. And so that would have made me uncomfortable, but I wasn't uncomfortable. I was just taking it all in. And it was in slow motion. I could see the dragonflies fly down the block, come back and circle me. I could see the iridescent colors and the veins in the wings, and I could see different sizes that immediately my mind connected with people. So,
Mm.
not specific people, but just generations of ancestors,
Oh,
babies,
wow.
toddlers, teenagers, young adults, old adults. I was just circled and filled with love and support. And the message that I got almost telepathically, almost like out of body, was that, yeah, Marni, you're making a very big decision and there will be consequences, but you are loved and supported, and you're on your journey towards, higher evolving. So that was extremely cool. And actually, because I'm someone who wants proof and evidence, Michelle, this
Mm.
was so cool. About 3/4 of the way, went through this experience, I started to kind of come back, and I knew to pull out my cell phone and videotape 100 dragonflies circling me. So I got the proof and evidence that I needed, that yes, I really experienced this. And I went on to look into other people that have had dragonfly experiences and realized through their voices, through sharing their stories, that I wasn't alone. This is a phenomenon that does happen to other people. So that's just one of many experiences. There were experiences with pennies and feathers and people levitating and you know people coming to the garage sale that I don't remember them coming or leaving, but it was a profound connection. And then, of course, because it's a spiritual fiction, not everything happened at the garage sale, but
Right.
I incorporated other, spiritual experiences that I had that were just so profound. But there are many that are illustrated in that book, in the book I wrote.
And absolutely love it. And I love how, even though it's fiction, you still used what your experiences were. And,
Oh yeah.
and I think everybody can relate to a garage sale.
Yeah,
And I
sure.
love that symbolism. And after every chapter, you always ask the same question over and over. Did God actually come to my garage sale? And I love
Right.
that.
Well, because through these experiences, as as much as I was given validation, I continued to question, like, something big is happening here. And
Right.
and it was.
And it absolutely was. And so let's go ahead and talk about your book, my dear, because again, it was one, once I started, I couldn't put it down because,
Oh,
and at least you listen to your spiritual experience instead of
yes,
just going, oh, those are just,
yes,
bugs flying around,
right, right.
that kind of thing. But yeah, so again, I had a hard time putting it down because everybody, again, can relate to a garage sale, and your symbolism in it is just, it's tremendous.
Well,
Now,
thank you,
oh,
thank
go ahead. Oh, my favorite chapter of all time. I loved every chapter. I want everybody to know that.
you. Right.
But my favorite chapter, and I guess it really, because I was able to relate to it,
Mhm.
was about, okay, so Janet is the main character in the book. And she was looking through and she found her mother's, if I can pronounce this right, sorry, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
And she found it and she heard in her mind, do not give it away. Do
right.
not give it away, like three times. And it
Yeah,
just kept that nudge. And we get that a lot in life. Don't do that. And we
right.
ignore it.
And that's what, is called, it's red flags, or it's our intuition, or
Yes.
it's our inner voice telling us, guiding us. And yes, we pay attention. And if we really think about it, and I think it's so important for people that are interested in this and interested in their own evolving, to spend some time reflecting, quieting their mind, and trying to be more present and mindful, so that when a message comes to them, they say, well, why am I getting that message? Is there a reason? Should I follow that? And we oftentimes find that when we do follow that, that was the right path to take.
Absolutely.
But
And
yes,
yeah.
I actually in the book compared it to that movie. I think it's called Grand Canyon, where the one of the characters has this little baby, and finds this baby, and there's a homeless person that doesn't, no one's paying attention to, but who says, keep the baby. And the character doesn't remember hearing them talk or seeing them approach them, but she listened to that. And it was the same kind of thing, where keep the sari. And the sari, for people that might not know, is the fabric that is used in India for women when they have the long dresses. And the story is actually based on true accounts and true experiences. The love affair between my mom and this wonderful gentleman from India um, really did happen. And I really did, in my crawl space, when I had to leave my home, found a box of love letters, written in the par avian onion skin paper, from the old days, the ones that are even kind of have stamps already embossed in there, and they were just lovely, lovely letters. And in fact, actually, I originally wanted to write an entire book just on that chapter, because it was so profound. The experience just, was so impactful. And I went from the old school, these letters, to, would you call it, modern day new school, to the internet, to Facebook, to find him, to find his family, and connected. And there's just so many things. I could talk hours and hours on what this whole experience happened. But I was fortunate enough with my life partner now, Rick. We spent a month in India, and we started our trip meeting him.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was able to give him a ring that my mom had saved for him. And I connected with him, and his entire family welcomed us, which was amazing. And it was kind of like a full circle situation. It was almost like my late mother in heaven was just, beaming. And now this man has since passed away. And I just feel like I was given such a blessing to remember him, because I did meet him when I was a kid, but to know that story and to know the significance of the fabric that was given to my mother, and to know that I almost sold it at the garage sale, and something told me, no, don't sell it.
Mhm.
And so it was just fascinating. And I still may write a book about it. I'm kind of moving in a different direction for the next new year. I am finishing the sixth book in my True Deceit, False Love series. So a whole different series that I have written
Oh,
since I've been here in the Caribbean, addressing domestic violence and
oh,
narcissistic abuse and parental alienation, and the inner work needed, the intergenerational family trauma connections. So I have a sixth book that I'm finishing up, but I'm so excited to work on some other projects. But there is a possibility that God Came to My Garage Sale might be a movie. There's talk, and there has been talk for a while, but we'll have to see if that materializes. I'm not really sure, but it's exciting that there are people interested in the story enough to think that maybe a different medium, like a screen, film or something, would be a nice way to portray some of these experiences, because we need to talk about these spiritual experiences.
mm.
Most everyone that has gone through an STE or an NDE, they're compelled to talk about it, to write a book about it, to share what happened. And I think that's wonderful now, because that we feel comfortable enough to talk about these things.
And I think you are doing a fantastic job. And I agree to you because I feel like, you're given those gifts and that you need to share those gifts with everybody. So I'll be the first one to go to the premiere of the movie. I'll be
Okay.
there.
Sounds great. Sounds great. We need to make it happen though. So, I know my book is in the hands of people, movers and shakers that could make this happen. But it's just going to take the right person to see the value in it. Luckily, this book, God Came to My Garage Sale. Well, actually, since I sent it to you, I won the 2022 Hollywood Book Fest.
Oh,
So runner up there. So it's gotten a little more exposure there, and
absolutely.
it's a book club favorite. So I am constantly getting orders for 10 or 15 books, because people want it as a book club. Not only because it's fairly easy to read, it's not too big, but that the material gets people thinking and talking about real life um, experiences, and about what are the possibilities that are out there. And I think we all wonder, what happens when we die. Is there something more to this earth? Those are common questions
Mhm.
that even people who don't believe want to know. So it's pretty cool.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for,
Sure.
those wise and inspirational words. Are you ready for the last question with the wheel?
Oh, sure, sure. Oh, yeah. Okay, sure.
Okay, so I'm going to bring it on. So, everybody that's just listening, we have a wheel, and the wheel has questions, metaphysical questions, just something fun because we get to learn more about you, just from just one more question. So, we'll see what is in store. So, I'm going to go ahead and spin it. Oh, now this is an interesting question for you. So, another class. All right. So, do you believe in ghosts? And you can take this because I know you're in the spiritual world. There's different definitions of ghost.
Right, right.
So, yeah, so tell us, what you believe in ghost, or, what is your take on it?
Well, I am still evolving with my understanding of ghosts, but I will tell you, last week I had the honor of speaking at Columbia University in New York City. I did a Blue Talks presentation on my book, and I was able to meet so many amazing people. And one person I met was an actress who was an understudy for the movie What Lies Beneath. And,
Oh,
people,
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
very
Yeah.
scary movie. um, I think with Harrison Ford, right? Maybe, and
Hmm.
Michelle Pfeiffer, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to go back. I do own the movie, so I should take a
Yeah,
look.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
she
it's
was,
been out for a while. Yeah.
yeah, she was an understudy for actually the character that was underwater, that
Mhm.
kind of the ghost that came to life to help there be closure to the situation that um, was the plot of that whole movie. And we talked for at least a half an hour about ghosts. And that was very interesting because I really haven't talked to many people about ghosts. I've been interviewed on a few podcasts where they talk about ghosts and they investigate the paranormal and that type of thing. So it's hard for me. I don't know. I would have to say, if I had to say yes or no right now, I would say yes. I would have to say yes, but they may not be called ghosts. They might be spirits. They might be um, angels. They might be people that have passed and are in transition. But according to this actress that I met in New York City last week, um, 1000% she believes in ghosts because of what she had experienced, and that was pretty significant, and she's talking about it, which is great because we do need to have discussions to sort of ask about it. So I
Right.
suppose, I would say yes in some kind of form, and I'm sure that there's positive and negative entities. There has to be when you think about people on Earth. There are positive, empathetic, loving people, and yet there are also people that really have malevolent intentions,
Yeah.
that really are have kind of a real evil gene in them, and
Yeah.
which is so hard for us loving empathetic people to understand. But it's almost like you have to have the differences. You have to have the darkness to
Mhm.
appreciate the light, or you have to have the light to really understand the darkness.
I agree. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Okay, so where can they find you, and where can people find your book?
Well, sure. All of my books, God Came to My Garage Sale, and then my 5-book series, True Deceit, False Love. They can all be found on Amazon, just a click away. Um, Barnes and Noble, Balboa Press, which is a division of Hay House, and that's my publisher. So definitely easily accessible in e-versions as well as, paperbacks. To find more about me and my what I'm doing and what I have done with the speaking engagements and
Mhm.
book signings and events, you could go to my website, which is www.godcametomygarage sale.com. So not only do I highlight that, you could read about me, check out the people who have endorsed my books. Not only James Redfield, the best-selling author of the Celestine Prophecy, but there are many others with all of the books, and they are resources within themselves. But another thing I do on the happenings section of my website is I highlight other people and their work and their books and their ideas. So you really kind of, since I'm not on social media, this is a great platform for me to kind of highlight other people as well. So my website again is www.godcametomygaragesale.com.
Love it. It has been a pleasure, my dear. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
And stick around. Don't leave after we say goodbye to everybody, okay?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It has been a pleasure. And did we say everything that you wanted to talk about, or is there anything that we left out?
You know, because I talk so much about handling adversity and challenges, the other message I would give to people is just, hey, we all are going through challenges, and our challenges may look different than what I talked about here or what other people are going through. Realize you can handle your challenges with love and honesty and hope and goodness, and you can rise above these tough times. Don't have a permanent solution for a temporary situation. You know, I went from losing everything, and I still, it's been 10 years and I don't have my children in my life, but I can still find happiness and live a beautiful life despite those losses. So hang in there with whatever you're going through, and be open to signs and synchronicities, because it can get better. And there's a lot of love and support out there.
Absolutely. And you heard it here. So hopefully you got inspired today with Michelle's Inspiration Hour. Thank you so much for watching and listening to us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.